How did the Mita system differ from the Encomienda system? Have you ever wondered how the labor systems during Spanish colonization shaped the lives of indigenous people in Latin America? Let's break down the differences between the Mita system and the Encomienda system. The Mita system originated from the Inca Empire's traditional labor practice called Mita. This system was based on communal cooperation, where communities provided rotating labor for public projects. In return, the state supported their welfare. However, under Spanish rule, this system transformed into a forced labor draft. It primarily supplied workers for silver and mercury mines, especially in Potosí. The focus shifted to extracting labor for economic gain, often ignoring the well-being of indigenous people. On the other hand, the Encomienda system was a Spanish colonial institution. The crown granted colonists, known as encomenderos, the right to collect tribute and forced labor from indigenous people in specific areas. While encomenderos were supposed to protect and Christianize the natives, the reality was often severe exploitation. This system was more about granting control over indigenous labor and tribute rather than a rotational labor draft. When we look at labor organization, the Mita system required communities to send a quota of men for labor periods that could last several months. These laborers worked in mines or on public works, often from home. This disrupted community life and agricultural cycles. The Mita system was state-administered, with fixed quotas and some regulation on wages, but conditions were harsh, leading to high mortality rates. In contrast, the Encomienda system gave encomenderos direct control over indigenous labor and tribute within their territories. Labor demands were less regulated by the state and more at the discretion of the encomendero. This often resulted in arbitrary and abusive labor conditions. Indigenous people were tied to the encomendero's land, effectively becoming labor serfs. Geographically, the Mita system was concentrated mostly in the Andean highlands, particularly in Peru and Bolivia, focusing on mining labor. It caused demographic collapse due to harsh conditions and separation from communities. The system disrupted traditional social structures and economies by forcibly removing men for extended periods. The Encomienda system, however, was widespread throughout Spanish America, including Mexico, Central America, and the Caribbean. It combined forced labor with tribute extraction and was a key mechanism for colonial economic control. This led to social disintegration and cultural loss, but it was more localized to the encomenderos' estates. Culturally, the Mita system was rooted in mutual aid and community welfare, reflecting indigenous values. The Spanish colonial Mita stripped these values, turning it into a tool of exploitation that disregarded indigenous rights. The Encomienda system represented a feudal-like system that subordinated native populations to Spanish settlers, undermining indigenous social organization. In summary, while both systems involved forced indigenous labor, the Mita system was a communal labor obligation adapted by the Spanish into a state-controlled labor draft primarily for mining. The Encomienda system was a grant of labor and tribute rights to individual colonists with less state regulation, often resulting in direct exploitation. The Mita system disrupted Andean communities through rotational labor drafts, while the Encomienda system imposed a feudal-like servitude tied to land and encomenderos. Both systems played a significant role in the social and demographic upheaval in Latin America during colonial times.